South Alabama blows out Arkansas State. It's Locked On Sunbelt.
You are Locked On Sunbelt, your daily podcast on the Sunbelt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel. New customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Win or lose. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, we will go over the basketball from Thursday night. We'll recap one from Wednesday. Georgia State and Georgia Southern weren't done when I finished up. And we will look ahead to Saturday's matchups. For Saturday's episode, we'll do a bonus episode since I missed a couple earlier in the week. We'll go over the crossover schedules that came out on Thursday. We did not get Southern Miss and Marshall. Missed opportunity. Big time missed opportunity. But we'll go over those schedules on a bonus episode on Saturday. All right. So, South Alabama and Arkansas State. This was a little bit of a weird basketball game, and it kind of appeared that South Alabama was psyched out. They were talking about a big ball game, trying to get a big crowd. It looked big crowd-ish. I don't know what the official attendance was. We can quickly look that up. But it was, official attendance was 2,200. Not bad, not great. Thursday night ball game in Mobile with a going up against the semifinal game with Notre Dame and Penn State. So, as we've mentioned throughout the last couple of weeks, since we've been paying attention to college basketball, South Alabama among the nation's leaders in turnovers, less than 9 a game. And the first 4 possessions of the game were turnovers. First 4 possessions for South Alabama were turnovers. 5 of the first 6 were turnovers. 1 that was not a turnover was a Barry Dunning 3, ironically enough. And so it kind of felt like they were psyching themselves out. The problem was Arkansas State wasn't pulling away. They had a chance to build a little bit of a lead, and they couldn't do anything about it. They scored, let me see what it was, because they did have a 12-7 lead, but that was really about it. They got to 12 points in about 5.5 minutes. And then the offense kind of slowed down a little bit. Then the South Alabama defense, their offense picked up a bit. And the South Alabama defense picked up a bit. And Arkansas State just started winging them from 3. I don't think I've ever seen this before. One of the TV timeouts I looked, Arkansas State had taken 24 shots. 20 of them were for 3. 18 straight 3-pointers. They could not dish and drive. They could not drive the lane, kick it outside. They're just shooting from deep from the outside. They're hitting some, and they did hit some late to make it close. Final score was 76-62. It was not that close. Arkansas State did not get it within single digits in the second half. Halftime lead was 41-31, and South Alabama got the first bucket of the second half and never looked back. Arkansas State scored the last 4 points of the game, so that's why an 18-point game ended up being a 14-point game at the end of the game. But South Alabama kind of methodically took control. They hit some threes. Eli Ormison, who's starting in front of an injured player, had the game of his life. I'm not sure if it was a career high. We'll have to find out from Craig Stevenson. But he played outstanding. 22 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 4 of 5 from 3, 6 of 8 overall, 6 of 7 3-pointers. Finished the first half with 12 points, including a 4-point play to end the half, which made a 6-point game, a 10-point game. And South Alabama missed some free throws. They missed at least 3 free throws and front ends of some 1-and-1s, which could have been a much bigger lead at half. And Arkansas State just had no answers. Again, it took them until also should mention that Kobe Julian did not play, did warm up, expected to play against Troy, I guess, coming up, but did not play in this ball game. And Arkansas State had no answers. They did score 62, which is a high for South Alabama over the last 4 ball games, right? We went over that. James Madison scored, even TCU in a win scored 58. James Madison scored 49. Mobile scored 41. Georgia State 51. And Georgia Southern 47. But a lot of those for Arkansas State were threes at the end. They were kind of stuck. I thought they were stuck at 39 for a minute. And then they started hitting threes. But even those guys were saying that it's danger time. And it was like 6 minutes. And they were down by 15. They shot 31% from 3, or 31% from the game. They shot 28% in the second half. They were 12 of 49 from 3. It was just all South Alabama. Should mention, I said that South Alabama's first 5 out of 6 possessions were turnovers. They finished the first half with 5 turnovers. They finished the game with a total of 11 turnovers. I think 2 of them were in the last 10 seconds. Arkansas State didn't turn the ball over. South Alabama did not have a lot of fast break points. They had a total of 4 fast break points. They're usually very good at that. Arkansas State did not turn the ball over. They had a total of 5 turnovers. Interestingly enough, South Alabama did rebound pretty well. They out-rebounded Arkansas State. Kind of shocked at that. I thought Arkansas State got a lot of rebounds, but apparently not. 37-34. And we'll see what Kobe Julian makes a difference of, because Arkansas State averages 80 points a game. They average 79.3 points a game, rounding up a little bit to 80 points a game. And I know Kobe Julian makes a big difference. And South Alabama is not going to really, pour it on in terms of scoring 85 or 90 a game. They control the tempo by their defense, whereas Princeton used to control the tempo by their offense. South Alabama controls the tempo by their defense by forcing you to take anywhere from 7 to 9 seconds to cross half court. And then all of a sudden, by the time you actually set up, there's only 17 seconds left on the shot clock. And then by the time you get going, you've already used another 8 seconds or so, and then you got 10 seconds. So you've already used 20 seconds, and you have to get going. So that's the way they do it. And, South Alabama goes away. Now they have an excellent shot before Troy comes in to beat teams that they're better than. Although Old Dominion all of a sudden is playing better. They beat the Cajuns tonight. They've won a few in a row. They get Old Dominion and Southern Miss, who all of a sudden is playing better, before they get Troy. So, again, not to presume anything, but this has trap games written all over it. Don't kid yourself. When they will have been geeked up, if you will. They psyched themselves out to begin with. But they have been psyched up to play Arkansas State for a minute, and now they'll be playing lesser teams, but teams that are playing better than they had been at the beginning of the season. All right, we'll take a timeout. We'll go over the rest of the Sun Belt quickly. Arkansas State drops to 11-5, 2-2 in the Sun Belt. South Alabama improves to 12-4 and 4-0 in the Sun Belt. We will come back, talk about the rest of the Sun Belt. Troy slips up at home against the Bobcats. We will do that when we come back after I tell you about TurboTax. This is a message from our sponsor, Intuit TurboTax. Are you getting tired of endless waiting, wondering, and worrying about your taxes? Well, now that's a thing of the past. You see, taxes don't need to be complicated or stressful. TurboTax is here to change that game by matching you with TurboTax expert who can get to work on your return right away. No more waiting for answers. No more wondering if you're missing out on deductions. Whether you've got one form or 20, TurboTax experts give your taxes their undivided attention while you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on what really matters. You won't have to lift a finger, but you'll get peace of mind knowing that your taxes are being handled by the pros. Ready, stress-free taxes, and the most money back guaranteed. Head over to TurboTax.com today and get matched with your expert who's ready to take your taxes off your plate so you can focus on your day. Only available with TurboTax Live Full Service, real-time updates only in the iOS mobile app. See guaranteed details at TurboTax.com/guarantees. All right, Dave Schultz, Lockdown Sunbelt, your teams every day. All right, Troy slipped up at home. Apparently, Sunbelt refs had a field day. Texas State beats Troy 74-73. You can only watch so many ball games. Troy actually led this ball game 41-32 at half and let it slip away. They did shoot 31 free throws to Texas State's 21 free throws. They made 24 out of 31. Texas State made 18 out of 21. So they missed 7. Texas State missed 3. So there is that. Texas State made actually one more three-pointer, 6 out of 14, 5 out of 17. Troy actually shot it a little bit better, 48-42. This was a 1-point game, so the stats are going to be relatively even. Turnovers were 15-13 in favor of Texas State, if you look at it that way. Rebounds were 34-31 in favor of Texas State. Second chance points were 16-12 in favor of the Bobcats. Bench points, exactly the same at 24 all. Points in the paint, 36-32, Texas State. Fast break points, 14-6, Troy. This game was tied at the end. And let's see. Let me get exactly what happened. It was 73-73. Thomas Dowd made a layup, and they did get it to Tylen Pope, who was fouled by Marcus Rigsby, and Rigsby grabbed his arm. All right, I went to see that just to see, because we do have another game where I'm not sure I agree with the foul. This one, he grabbed his whole arm, and it was pretty blatant. I went back and see it a couple of times, and Tylen Pope hit the second of 2 free throws with 1 second remaining, or else they would have gone to overtime. So in this one, Texas State had not been playing well, right? They'd lost, 4 out of 5 ball games. And so Texas State gets a very, very big win on the road. They improved to 2-2 in conference and 9-7. 9-7 overall. Troy drops their first ball game in the Sun Belt, 3-1, and they drop to 10-5 overall. All right. The other big ball game was James Madison, right? Coming off that big win over Arkansas State. And could they follow that up with a win on the road in a team that they're probably better than? Marshall, kind of an even team, although James Madison does have a few more wins than losses. Winning on the road, as we mentioned, is hard. Marshall does prevail 80-78. And again, the stats in a 2-point game is going to be relatively even. Even the free throws are relatively even. Marshall's 13 out of 18. JMU is 12 out of 17. Marshall did hit more threes, a lot more threes, 13 out of 24. JMU 6 out of 13. All right. Field goals, though, JMU had 30 and Marshall had 27. JMU dominated the points in the paint, 40-16. So JMU is inside, Marshall is outside. All right. Halftime was JMU up 34-32. Thing is, game was tied at the towards the end again, 78 all. And let me make sure this is the case. Hold on a second. It was tied 78 all. And Mark Freeman made a free throw with 6 seconds left to tie it for JMU. And then Marshall went down, actually got a good shot under the hoop where they did not call a foul. Then they called a foul on the offensive rebound, where to me, it actually looked like one Marshall guy went over the back of another Marshall guy. That's what it looked like to me. If you wanted to call a foul on the shot, okay. But they called a foul on the offensive rebound when it looked like one Marshall guy climbed the back of another Marshall guy trying to get the rebound. But they called it on JMU, so Marshall shoots the shots. That was the controversial foul that I thought, compared to the Troy player grabbing the arm of the Texas State player, which was clear. There may have been some other calls that I didn't see, but that one was he grabbed his arm. So I thought that one was a little controversial. I will say, and I'll give it up to him because you don't usually hear this, Preston Spradlin, and you could still hear it. It's out on our guy Dave Reiger from the JMU Radio Network. Put it on. He put it out on Twitter. Preston Spradlin, the post game, sort of criticized himself, and you could hear he's getting angry. Didn't put it on his players. Congratulated his players. Tough ball game. Really physical. Blamed himself for not calling a timeout before the last play, but also criticized himself. Took a shot at the umps. But they took a shot at the umps. Took a shot at the refs. Did not think it was a good, a well officiated ball game, but was also criticizing himself because he allowed the officiating to affect the way that he coached the game. So he's taking a shot at the refs. Don't make any mistake. Saying he hopes the officiating is hearing that, and I'm sure Keith Gill is going to hear that. But he's also saying, I let the way the officials officiating the game affected the way that I coached the game. So you have to do both. As a coach, we see that all the time, right? The coaches are stomping up and down the sidelines, yapping with the officials, trying to get calls for later in the game. And when it's time to talk to the team, you got to coach the team, right? And as soon as the team goes back on the court, that's when you're working the officials. So there is that cat and mouse game that some of the coaches are very good. Back in the day, Bobby Knight was good at it. John Thompson was good at it. Boeheim was good at it, right? Riley Massimino, all those guys from the ACC. Dean Smith was good at it. Mike Krzyzewski was good at it. Roy Williams was good at it. All these legendary coaches were good at it. Patino's good at it, right? All these guys are really good at it. And, Preston Spradlin admitted that he let it affect him. So he, while taking a shot at the officials, did mention that he has to improve that part of his coaching acumen. So JMU falls to Marshall 80-78. All right. Elsewhere, ODU takes care of Louisiana 71-60. I didn't like that one. I told you I'd stay away from it. Cajuns can't score. And all of a sudden, Old Dominion has won a few in a row. So I didn't like that one at all. Wanted to stay away from it. Let's see who scored the points. Again, I need to know. Dura Gordon scored 20. Johnson and Davis each had 13 for ODU. Matatukil, I'm not saying that right, had 16. Evans actually had 19 for the Cajuns. And they continue to struggle. They just have trouble scoring. It was actually a 32-30 ball game at halftime, but the Cajuns scored 30 again in the second half, and ODU had 39. So Old Dominion is 71-60. Now Old Dominion is actually 3-1. They've improved to 7-9 overall, and the Cajuns fall to 2-2. They started out 2-0. Now they're 2-2. They fall to 2-12. Meanwhile, should mention James Madison falls to 2-2. They're 9-7. Marshall improves to 2-2. They are 9-8. ULM, they fall to Southern Miss. Southern Miss wins 84-67. All of a sudden, Southern Miss playing a little bit better. Let's see here. Excuse me. 3 guys from Southern Miss in double figures. Harris had 19. Worrell had 16, and Alvarez had 14. Southern Miss actually down by 1.5, 40-39. Then the defense kicked in, holding ULM just to 27 points in the second half, outscoring them 45-27 to go on to win 84-67. You had Bolden with 17, Young with 15, and Wilson had 10 for ULM. Southern Miss finished hot, making 10 of their last 12 field goals in the second half. And so now, let's see here. Southern Miss improves to 2-2, and they are 7-9 overall. Monroe, the only Southern Sun Belt team that does not have a win in conference, and they drop to 4-13. All right. Quickly, I think I got all of the games from Thursday. We did have that one ball game. Georgia State from Wednesday night does beat Georgia Southern 82-78, and all of a sudden Georgia State has won a couple in a row. They improved to 2-2 in the conference, 6-10 overall. Georgia Southern drops to 1-3, 8-8 in the conference, and you couldn't be any more even. And there's one reason why Georgia State won this game. Georgia was tied at the end of the first half, 38-38. It was tied at the end of regulation, 69, or I should say, 69 all. And Georgia State wins it 82-78. Big difference in the free throws. Georgia State, 24 of 30, and Georgia Southern, 8 of 16. Even if you want to complain of the personal fouls, where Georgia Southern was called for 20 and Georgia State 15, I don't think there's a huge difference. You got to make your free throws. All right. Technically, Georgia State missed 6 and Georgia Southern missed 8. If you're missing 50% of your free throws, make 2 or 3 more free throws and Georgia Southern wins that ball game in regulation. So we are all recapped up. So quickly, South Alabama leads the conference 4-0. Troy and Old Dominion. So now you got South Alabama hosting Old Dominion. That's got first place on the line all of a sudden. That's Saturday afternoon in Mobile. And now Troy and Arkansas State. We will get to that. Who's going to rebound? That's coming up. Also, Arkansas State's lost 2 in a row. That's coming up on Saturday. James Madison. So you got South Alabama's 4-0. Troy's 3-1. Old Dominion's 3-1. Arkansas State, JMU, Texas State, App State, Marshall, Southern Miss, Georgia State, and the Cajuns are all 2-2. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 teams are 2-2. Coastal and Georgia Southern are 1-3, and Monroe 0-4. All right, let's take a timeout. We'll come back. We will quickly preview the ball games on Saturday. And then again, we'll come back with a little bit of a bonus episode on Saturday and check those football crossover schedules. We will do that we'll give you a Saturday episode, to look over while you're getting ready for those Saturday basketball games. We will do that after I come back and tell you about FanDuel. From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. The FanDuel app gives you everything you need for live bets, same-game parlays, and so much more. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. By the way, have I ever told you how much I hate defensive pass interference and I am not a Notre Dame fan. I despise defensive pass interference. That could be a whole podcast in itself. In fact, that's a great title for a podcast. I hate defensive pass interference. Okay. Saturday's ball games. And again, because we don't have a lot of teams with winning records in the conference, we don't have a lot of teams with overall winning record matchups. We got Arkansas State and Troy. That's 1. And you got App State and James Madison. That's 2. Overall records. So, who's going to rebound? App State and or Troy. I should say Troy or Arkansas State, I should say. Troy with a tough loss at home. Losing games like that at home are brutal. It's just, you got to hold serve at home in the Sun Belt because winning on the road is really tough. So that is a huge win for Texas State. All right. And a really disappointing loss for what I think is a good Troy team. I think we'll see. Old Dominion is coming on. So we will see about that. But I do think, and we'll see what happens when Kobe Julian comes back. I do think Arkansas State, South Alabama, and Troy are the delineation. And that separates everybody else, but it's still very early. And so we will see what goes on with this Troy and Arkansas game. I should say Arkansas State ball game. And since now I'm recording this a couple of days beforehand, obviously we won't get the lines like we did last night in the middle of the podcast. I presume Troy will be, 2 or 3 point spread. I'll take Troy at home. Again, well coached. Let's see if we have and a lot's going to depend if Kobe Julian, comes back again. Feels like Troy is going to be a better defensive club, a little bit like South Alabama, but Arkansas State's going to be, maybe a little bit more desperate. They would be looking at a 3-game losing streak. That's going to be a little bit rough for the team that was picked to win the conference. So it's going to be a big deal if Kobe Julian is going to come back. I know Brian Hodgson is much better, more important to look long term. And still, important to get that 1 or 2 seed, but certainly you don't want to lose out on those quarterfinals either. All right. So we'll see. Again, Arkansas State averages around, it's probably going to drop to 78 points a game compared to the 79 points a game because they only scored 62 against South Alabama. And Troy averages about 74 points a game. All right. So we shall see how that one goes. It is in Troy. All right. By the way, congrats to Barry McKnight on being the voice, the sportscaster of the year in Alabama. It's a huge upset when somebody doesn't get it in Birmingham or Mobile and it doesn't go, with all due respect to those guys, when it doesn't go to the University of Alabama and when it doesn't go to the University of or Auburn University, it's a huge deal. And so congratulations to the voice, Barry McKnight, of the Troy Trojans for being the Alabama Sportscaster of the Year. I think that's a great deal. That's awesome. And really thrilled for him. It is well-deserved for Barry McKnight. All right, let's check out the rest of the action. That ball game is on ESPN+. I don't think we have any nationally televised games this week. I think one game in a couple weeks was lifted up to ESPN2. All right, so now all of a sudden this South Alabama ball game against Old Dominion has first place on the line. So you would think Richie Riley would be able to get their attention. South Alabama 12-4. Right now, clearly the best team in the Sun Belt. All 4 of their wins by double digits. And again, this 14-point win, not nearly as close as that score would indicate. Taking on Old Dominion 7-9, 3-1 in the Sun Belt. But all of a sudden, they have won 4 out of their last 5. Oddly enough, before that streak, they had lost 5 out of their previous 6 ball games. So now they have wins over Monroe, Virginia Wesleyan, They did lose to Arkansas State, but they beat Southern Miss, and now they've beaten the Cajuns on the road. And now they get South Alabama to see how good they really are. And, they put up some points, struggled a little bit against Arkansas State, but they scored 71 or 74 against Southern Miss. They put up 71 against the Cajuns. They put up 82 against Virginia Wesleyan. They put up 80 against Monroe. They lost to Northeastern, put up 71. Lost to George Washington, put up 70. So we will see what they can do against South Alabama. Let's see if they got a matchup here yet. They're scoring 70 points a game. Remember, South Alabama is, if you're scoring 60, you're doing pretty well against them. They do not give up a lot of points. I will take South Alabama. I'm going to presume that is going to be about it really should be a double-digit game, but I presume it'll be a 6 or 7 point game. We'll see if Vegas catches on, because they have not yet. They have not caught on yet at all. All right. App State hosting James Madison. Again, a road game. Tough one for James Madison. All of a sudden, App State, let's see if they're starting to play better. They're 8-7, 2-2 in the Sun Belt. James Madison coming off that loss against Marshall. App State has won, I thought, a couple in a row. Yes, they've beaten Texas State and Coastal Carolina after they had lost 4 straight, including their first 2 Sun Belt games. But since then, they've beaten Texas State and Coastal Carolina. And this is a big one, because now they're hitting the road for 4 straight, going to ODU and going to JMU and then going to Arkansas State and going to Monroe. So they're not going to be back in lovely Boone, North Carolina until the 29th of January. So this is a big one to stay in contention in the Sun Belt, because, are they going to be able to split on the road? So they need to get this one in a big way. And JMU obviously wants to rebound as well. They would much rather be 3-2 than 2-3. I'm going to take App State at home. This is a good one as well. Southern Miss at home plays much better. They're taking on Texas State. That's kind of a pick 'em. I'm going to take Southern Miss at home. One team is 9-7. That's the Bobcats. Southern Miss is 7-9, but they play better at home. I'm going to take the Golden Eagles. Marshall at home against Georgia Southern. I will take the Thundering Herd. Again, that's probably going to be a 2 or 3 point spread. I'm going to take Marshall. Georgia Southern struggling all of a sudden. They're 8-8, 1-3 in the Sun Belt. Georgia State starting to play well. I'm going to look for them to win their 3rd in a row. They're hosting Coastal Carolina. They could go to 3-2. Coastal Carolina struggling. They are 1-3. We already took Troy, and who knows what's going to happen. Kind of an odd. Cajuns are playing the only night game on the slate, 7 p.m. Central Time. Cajuns hosting Monroe. I guess we'll go with the Cajuns, because Monroe is just not is worse than the Cajuns. The Cajuns are just not any good. We'll see if Monroe, these stats are not going to look pretty. You never know. Monroe actually scores more points than the Cajuns. If Monroe can play defense for the final 5 minutes of the game, they may actually go in and beat the Cajuns. That's not going to be a pretty ball game. Yeah, that's going to be interesting. I would take the Cajuns in that one, but it's still not going to be a pretty game. Not going to be a pretty game. All right. Again, we will be back, meaning me, myself, and I. We'll have a bonus episode on a Saturday talking about the crossover schedules that came out that were announced on Thursday. So we'll do that on Saturday. And then, of course, on Monday, we will recap all of the action that happened on Saturday. And we do have some coaching and some transfer portal to talk about. I think Coastal Carolina got a quarterback. I think JMU got a quarterback. So and of course, we got the transfer portal and NIL deals with the coaching carousel as well. So still lots to talk about. Thank you so much for sticking with us. And again, I think we got 5 weeks before baseball season starts. So looking forward to all of it. Really appreciate you guys sticking with me. Have a safe and fun weekend. And we'll have a bonus episode on Saturday. You've been watching and listening to Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day.